Hi, it's Rachel here. I haven't made a video for ages and ages, so it's about time that I did. There has been a few interesting developments in New Zealand, one of them being that we now have legislation that bans conversion therapy, which is very good. I don't think the ban goes quite far enough though, because when you read the details of it, it's only banning one-on-one therapy. And that therapy can just be talking therapy, but basically it means that it's still okay for a pastor or a preacher or anyone else to speak to a room full of people about the evils of homosexuality. It's just not okay for them to do it one on one, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. A lot of my ex-witness friends are gay and grew up in the organisation knowing that and had to listen to all the terrible, judgmental, just horrible comments coming from the members of the congregation when it came to their views on homosexuality. So, that's extremely damaging and very hurtful, especially to anyone of any age, but especially those young people. And I've seen a lot of people, young people, teenagers, on XJW subreddit who believe that they feel that they are gay, yet they've got to listen to all this stuff all the time and basically just have to hide and keep it secret from their parents because they fear that if they were to come out they would be rejected and then abandoned. So it's extremely damaging to their self-esteem. I just can't comprehend just how awful it would have been listening to the comments, like Sodom and Gomorrah. I remember a sister, an elder's wife, at our book study once who was spouting off horrible stuff, about the people of Sodom and Gomorrah who were destroyed supposedly permanently because of their sin. And she just spoke with such contempt and hatred for them. And I thought, there could be someone here visiting who's hearing that, who's gay. It's just ugh, gross, unloving, horrible. Anyway, yes, so this new legislation, I don't think it goes far enough. You think of, as witnesses, we had a lot of literature and books aimed at young people, like questions young people ask, answers that work, and there's a section on there about sexual feelings, and it sort of insinuates there that it's possible for these ones to change. It actually has the word change. I think it's in italics in the paragraph, and so it really is suggesting to them that it's within their power to change, and most of them feel that that is not the case. One of my friends, he grew up in the organisation and in his teen years realised that he had same-sex attraction and something that he couldn't shake, yet he just hoped for the day when if he was stayed good and didn't succumb, that after Armageddon Jehovah would wave a magic wand and make him normal. But then Stephen Let's Talk a couple of years ago put rest to that idea, saying that people who come through Armageddon or who are resurrected who are gay will have to learn. They'll have to learn to not be gay. So the onus is all on them again. So my friend was feeling somewhat hopeless after he heard that talk, and I just can't imagine. It must be horrible. So anyway, so that's one thing that's happened here. I have thought that I might get in touch with someone and send them the questions young people ask book with that paragraph in it, because to me that is a kind of therapy, if you like. It's trying to persuade them to change their sexuality. I don't think you need to have it's a very narrow definition that the legislation has for therapy. It's that one-on-one, person-to-person contact. But it could come through, it could come through a book, it could come through videos, it could come from the pulpit, so I think they have narrowed it too much. And when they say that they brought this legislation in because they recognised that conversion therapy was harmful and damaged the mental health of people, well, so does this other reading it in a book, hearing it from the platform. It's just as harmful as being one-on-one. So anyway, and I think also there might have been an age thing, that it was like banned if they're under 18 or something. I'm not sure. It was a while ago that I read up about it. I'll have to check up on it again, but still, it's better than nothing, but it doesn't go far enough. The other thing that's happening in New Zealand too is that, just making sure I'm still recording, yep, is that we soon will be getting some anti-speech laws, and this is mainly as a result of the terrible shooting that happened in Christchurch a few years ago, or a couple of years ago, I can't even remember, where about 50 people were shot dead by basically a type of white supremacist type of person. It was absolutely shocking, and it made the news all around the world. So the government is wanting to toughen up on hate crimes and hate speech, because we don't really have any specific hate speech laws or hate crime laws in New Zealand. That it's very limited. So that will be really good. And I've made a submission. Everything that comes up, I make a submission if I can and say something. The other thing that's happening in New Zealand too is that our Charities Act is under review. It was last reviewed in 2005, and it's well overdue to look at again. And COVID has really interfered with it a lot. It's had a lot of hiccups and interruptions, but it's sort of back on track again. And there's a lawyer she's a charity lawyer. She normally represents charities, and she had a sabbatical basically to pursue she had a scholarship type of thing from the Law Foundation, where she did some research into what a good charity framework would look like for our modern times. So she produced a very long report on the current charity law and where it falls short and what they could make improvements on. So I've been feeding her a lot of information about Jehovah's Witnesses, as well as other high control religions that practice things like shunning, and other things that are, pretty much violate human rights. And she's been extremely receptive to everything I've sent her and very sympathetic. And so I can, a couple of years I've been sending her stuff, so she's very well aware of the problems with Jehovah's Witnesses. And she produced this long report that she put out just recently, a month or so ago. That's up for discussion now with all relevant people. She actually specifically mentioned the problem with religions that harm people, for example, those that shun. So I'm sure she's kind of put that in there because I've been giving her all this information about it. And so she's very well aware, and she's connected. So hopefully people in positions where they can bring about legislative change in the know, they've been made aware of the problems. The other big thing that's happening in New Zealand, which is really helping us ex-witnesses and potentially current witnesses, is that there is a cult that's in the news called Gloriavale. This is a cult of about 600 people at the moment. It has been more in the past, but about 200 or 300 people have left in recent years. And this cult is a Christian cult. that started a few decades ago on the in the South Island. They relocated to the west coast of the South Island to a very isolated spot where they've basically built a commune type of arrangement. They house everybody there, and they operate a lot of businesses. They've got farms. They've got like dairy farms. They have sphagnum moss. Actually, I think that part might have closed down. They also produce honey and sell it, export it overseas. They have a tourism type of deer hunting tourist type of operation. They have what else? They make milk type products, things made from milk, and export them. They've got their fingers in a few pies, and they actually make quite a lot of money, yet they are a registered charity in New Zealand. And this group, I call them the sexy cult of New Zealand, not because they are sexy, but because they grab the imagination. They're fascinating because they wear a uniform pretty much. The women all wear like long blue dresses and with little white pinafore type things and a white thing on their head. So they're all very uniform. Conformity is the big thing. Anyway, they have been in the news a lot over the years, and here and there, with allegations of sexual abuse. Their leader, he actually went to prison for a short time for allegedly sexually violating a minor. And it's just absolutely crazy that the authorities allowed him to return to his position there after he got out of prison, where he would be around children. Most of the people there were born there, and they are related. They are encouraged to have really large families. In fact, it's a sin for them to not have children. They have to have children. They're not allowed to use birth control. They have to produce children. So a family with 7 children is considered on the small side. They quite often go up to like 12 children or more. The families are housed in very small quarters. A family might share 1 or 2 rooms. And given that the parents are taught that it's a sin not to have children, the children become very well aware of what sex is all about. I just can't believe that the government has permitted this, and they've known this. So girls are pretty much married off really young, sometimes to men that are much older than themselves, and don't have much say because it's the leader or the leaders tell them who they are to marry. And it's just, it's a horrible situation. Anyway, the Gloriavale community have been in the news again this year because finally they have got some lawyers who have volunteered to work with them, some big name New Zealand lawyers actually, and some of the ex-members have taken, well, they've appealed to Charity Services, which used to be Charity Commission. I'm just watching my time. Charity Commission in New Zealand, who has, oversight over registered charities and is supposed to monitor them and everything. But people who have left Gloriavale have pleaded with them to come and investigate Gloriavale for its various abuses, and they either have gone and had a look, thought, nah, there's nothing wrong, or the leaders have tweaked their procedures a little bit, but really what they've done is just reworded things to pull the wool over the eyes of the authorities. As we know, these religious authoritarian type religious leaders are good at doing that. I've seen it with the exclusive brethren as well. They make it sound like they've changed, but they haven't really when you read between the lines. So Gloriavale's a bit like that. Anyway, They've been in the news lately because some of the leavers just wanted to take basically they're suing the government, well, the Employment Inspectorate and the Ministry of Business. Oh, how does it go? Ministry of Business, Innovations and Employment. Yeah, because they had come into Gloriavale to scrutinise the working conditions of the people working there. Because, as I said before, they do have some quite big businesses that they run, farms and an apiary type of honey production. And we're talking big businesses. They rake in millions every year. And they actually put their children to work from a very young age, like about 6. So these 3 young ex-members who took the Ministry of blah, 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 as I said before, and the Employment Inspectorate, who had come in and said, no, we can't do anything about the conditions here for workers because you're not employees, you are volunteers. Therefore, they wipe their hands of them. So these young men weren't happy with that, so they took them to court. And basically what's happened is the judge found in their favour that in fact an employment relationship did exist between Gloriavale and these young men, that they were not volunteers, and that basically they deserve to be paid and enjoy all the rights of an employee that every other employee in New Zealand enjoys. So that's where it stands at the moment. We're waiting to see how Gloriavale responds to this, because it's probably going to cost them a ton of money. And I was astounded actually reading through the report that the judge wrote at the end of these court proceedings, how work orientated this group is. Like, the children will be introduced to a working schedule from a very early age, and they'd be expected to go and milk cows before school. They were schooled on the compound. They have their own school teachers, and then they would knock off school about 1 o'clock and then go and do some other work somewhere else for a few hours, and they could easily clock up 70 hours a week. So, and the work schedule just intensified as they got older. They finished school at about 15, and they'd go straight into full-time work, hard work, and often it was not just 40 hours, it'd be 70 plus hours a week. Very little time off, no leave, no, maybe 3 or 4 days of a holiday a year. Just terrible, terrible conditions. And I was really pleased when I read through the judge's report, because she really could understand the whole brainwashing aspect of it, that even though these kids signed a contract that they were volunteers and they were happy to work just to get the roof over their head and a meal and be allowed to live at Gloriavale, she recognised that these were indoctrinated people who grew up there, who knew nothing else, and they really had no choice. And of course, most of the adults at Gloriavale were once children there as well, so same things applied. So she was really getting to grips and recognising the element of coercive control and undue influence. And yeah, because this whole court thing was about whether they were employees or volunteers, but she recognises that it goes a lot deeper than that. So we do have, later this year, I think it's in September, there's a bunch of female ex-members who are also taking I believe it's the same groups, to court. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all pans out and what further investigations are done. And of course, they've got some excellent lawyers and human rights lawyers on board with them. And my hope is that the success that they have will spill over to groups like the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Exclusive Brethren, Scientology, though we don't have very many of them here, and any other really high control groups that practice shunning. I mean, shunning's the main thing that I'm concerned about. We also at the moment in New Zealand have a inquiry into abuse in care. It started out being abuse just in state care, but then it was expanded to include abuse in faith institutions as well. And Jehovah's Witnesses have just recently been included in that, so that's good. So we hope that the result from that will be that we will see mandatory reporting introduced, because we have absolutely no mandatory reporting in New Zealand at all. So there's quite a bit going on here, and yeah, so that's basically where things stand right now. It's quite exciting, and I urge anyone in New Zealand who sees this to have your say whenever you get a chance to submit on anything. Send in a submission. Often it's quite easy, you can just do it online, and yeah, or you can just, if you've got concerns about any of these things, please write to, I've written to the Human Rights Commissioner and to Charity Services and even to the Minister of Justice. So I think the more we talk about it and we make them aware of it, and they can recognise that it is a problem, that, that nothing's going to happen unless we do that, unless they see people complaining about it. So I love the way that the Gloriavale leavers have really drawn attention to a lot of the issues. So anyway, I will leave it there and say goodbye until next time. Bye.